Hi there, it's Jennifer and welcome back to my favorite crafty things of 2015. Today's video focuses on crafting tools. Now remember, crafting tools are a personal preference, but I'm hoping that by sharing a bunch of the ones that I recommend, you might find something that would appeal to you. Be sure to also go over to my blog to check out the rest of the series and also giveaways and discount codes. Again, today's video is longer than I wanted, but really there was so much to cover, it just had to be. Okay, so let's start with the first category, and that is stamping tools. Now, the first day of this series, I did a video on stamp care, where I talk about acrylic blocks and stamp cleaners and such. Be sure to watch that video if you haven't already. I'll link to it here and in the YouTube description below. Those are some basic stamping tools. But there were a few I wanted to share here also. One that I really like this year is the MISTI stamping tool. This has been very popular. Now, it does have a higher price point, but it's definitely a tool that you could use with all of your stamping. And when I do my own personal stamping, I use this all the time instead of acrylic blocks. There are so many techniques that you can do with this, and I encourage you to check out the videos I've done using this tool. I think it would be helpful to you in deciding if it's something that you would want to invest in. Now you can take out the black piece, the foam piece inside, and use this with your cling or unmounted rubber stamps, or keep the black foam in and then you can use it with your clear stamps. Oh, and by the way, this is the newest version of the MISTI that has a lasered etched grid on the front door of it, that swinging door. Okay, I really quickly wanted to show you some of my favorite tricks. Say you've created this beautiful card, it's completely finished, and you need to add that sentiment perfectly straight in just the right location. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that. This is a new stamp set from My Favorite Things. I think it's adorable. I'm just grabbing one of the longer sentiments to show you. Now you need to get this straight on here, but sometimes you mess up or you don't stamp it perfectly. The MISTI really can help with that. I printed this grid. It's a free grid that you can download from the My Sweet Petunia website. I'll provide a link for that. I just printed it on transparency and I'm putting it right over my finished stamp piece. Again, pretend that's all finished stamping. Now I'm taking the sentiment and I'm lining it up based on that grid exactly where I want it. Then I put my magnet down. This is magnetic, so it holds everything in place. I close the door on it and that takes a hold of my stamp. Now I keep that paper in the corner again, ink up my stamp, and I can stamp it exactly where I want it, perfectly straight onto my card. This has saved me many, many times. Now say you did that, say you stamped it and you didn't stamp it perfectly. Here I'm going to stamp it poorly. You can see I didn't completely stamp it. You can just ink it up and stamp it again and get it perfect. So that's one of the other nice things. If you don't stamp it just right, you can fix it. Okay, I also wanted to show you another trick. You can do like a range stamping, like do patterns. Here I stamped it once and I'm just going to shift it up 1/4 of an inch, stamp it again and shift it up another 1/4 of an inch, and you can create an entire background of perfectly placed stamped images. So you can do some really creative things this way. Now I also wanted to show you how you can use this for stamping perfectly on a die cut. So I have this die and this stamp set from My Favorite Things. I went ahead and die cut it from some blue cardstock. Now I want to stamp perfectly onto that die cut. Since that die was closed, it's hard to do the stamping then the die cutting. So this is a really easy trick. So you just put the stamp into your MISTI, you ink it up and stamp it onto some scrap paper. So I'm just going to stamp it very quickly there. Now I take the negative space of my die cut and I put it perfectly around the stamped image, put my magnet down to hold it in place. Now I can pop the die cut into its place and stamp on it, and it'll be stamped perfectly onto that die cut. Now there are many tricks for getting perfect stamping onto die cuts, but I don't know, this one just seems handy to me. So those are a few of my favorite tips, but again, be sure to check out all my MISTI videos. I even use it to help me tie my bows perfectly. Okay, so another stamp tool that I really like is the Inkadinkado masking paper. There are a lot of masking papers out there, but I always go back to this one. I just like the quality of it. It's basically a temporary sticky piece of paper. You can stamp your image on it, cut it out, and then use that as a mask, and you can reuse them over and over again. I keep mine in a plastic sleeve, kind of like a page protector, just to keep all the loose ends so none of it goes to waste. And by the way, I like that the Inkadinkado masking paper has release paper on the back of it, so you don't have to deal with the stickiness until you're ready to put it on your project. However, another option that probably is a little bit more economical is to use Full-Adhesive Post-it notes. So the entire back of these Post-it notes has the adhesive and it's perfect for masking. So the pieces are smaller, but most stamped images fit on there. Or you can use this 3M wide Post-it tape. So you can get the same effect from that. Just tear off what you need, stamp on it, cut it out, and you can create a mask. So all three of those are good. I like the Inkadinkado because I find it handy, but these other two options are definitely more economical. Okay, now another fun masking product is a Molotow Masking Pen. So basically you stamp and color and do whatever you want to your image. Then you put this on top. You just scribble it right on top, try to be as even as you can. You can see it's very easy to do. And try to stay inside of the lines. Then you set it aside to dry for a while, and then you can do whatever you want on top of it. Now I've had success with this on the Nina white cardstock and a few different watercolor papers, but I encourage you to test out what paper you use. Some of the papers want to kind of stick to it when you go to rub it off, so you want to test it out, but I found that most papers work great. Okay, so now that I let that dry completely, I can come and put some ink on top of it. I wiped the excess ink off the masking part, and now I just use my finger to rub away all of the masking fluid. Look how beautiful that is. This is a very handy tool for masking, and I'll link here to a video where I used it. I really think this is one of the greatest products that I started using in 2015. Okay, so now cutting tools. There are quite a few different cutting tools. I'm going to share a few different ones because I actually use quite a few different ones day to day. There are 3 scissors that I really like, and they're all right here. The first one is the Fiskars Spring Assist Scissors. Now these pop back open for you, so you don't have as much wear on your hand. And I like that they have the fine tip to them. So I can do fussy cutting without much effort. It's real easy to get into those little tight spots. And you can easily lock them closed. Now, I've been using these scissors for many years, and I always have tried many others, but nothing is as good for fussy cutting for me than these scissors. They last a long, long time. I also really like the Tim Holtz scissors. These are like my heavy-duty scissors, and I do love to use them. There is a smaller pair available, but I like this longer size. Also, the handles are real soft, so you don't have as much wear on your hand also with these scissors. These are the scissors that I use everywhere in my house, in my gardening, in my husband's toolbox. We have these kind of scissors everywhere. Very good quality scissor. And the last scissors that I use are the Fiskars Amplify. I like that these have the long tip and they just cut like butter. So this is good for cutting things off the edge of your card. I honestly reach for all 3 of these scissors equally, and I found that they're all high quality and something that I can count on lasting for a long time. Another cutting tool that I have used for many years is a Tim Holtz craft knife. It comes with a replacement blade, and you can buy replacement blades too, but I've never really changed it. It seems to last for a long time, but the best part about this is it retracts. I don't need any more crafting injuries than I already get, so I like that I can safely retract this when I'm not using it. So next I'm going to show you a few different paper trimmers that I do use in my craft room, and I'm going to have a more detailed review of all of these trimmers in a video coming up soon, but I wanted to show you briefly. The one that I've used for the longest, and I use probably the most, is a Fiskars wire guide trimmer. You can fold the side out. You can see it's got lots of measurements on both sides of the cutting blade. There is a smaller version of this if you wanted to try it. I'd like the full-size version. It does have a lock feature, so if you want to make sure that the arm doesn't flip up on it, you can lock it. The replacement blades are titanium, so they last a long time, and you can get new ones. They don't cost too much. The 2 big things I love most about this trimmer is it's got the measurements to the right of the cutting line and to the left. So you can cut thin strips measuring on that one side. It really is handy to have that. The other thing I really like about this trimmer is it has a wire guide. So when you put this arm down, there's a thin wire in there. If you look on my finger, you can see it. There's a thin wire that will show you on your paper where this will cut. Now, I will tell you, I've never had one of these wire guides break on me, and I've used these trimmers for years for lots of kitting purposes, so I've done a lot of cutting. However, I know that some people have had theirs break, but Fiskars is very good about replacing them. I also know that some people have trouble getting a straight line with this, but I never have. I really think how straight of a line you get and whether or not that wire maintains depends on how it's used. That's the only thing I can think of because I've never had problems, and trust me, I put more wear on my trimmers than just about anyone. So I still highly recommend this one. And again, you want to make sure to get the titanium replacement blades. I'll talk more about these trimmers in a future video, I promise. Okay, another one. This is brand new. I just got it this week and I've been using it and it is fantastic. It's the Holtz Trimmer. It's a pretty good price point. It's a very good price point, actually. It's got this nice handle where you can rest your fingers. And I have never been a big fan of this type of trimmer. I'm always afraid with my kids around of having one of these. But I've been trying them out so I could do reviews and I have been very happy. I just keep it out of the reach of my kids. I like that there's measurements on the top and the bottom. And I like that this cuts like butter, especially super, super thin strips of cardstock. I can do that with my Fiskars, but this one seems to get even better, like super thin, like so thin that you probably wouldn't even need them that thin. So here I'll show you an example of how thin it can cut. Now, the only negative that I see with this is I like that the Fiskars has the measurements on both sides of where it cuts. But if you are okay with having the measurements just on the left side, this is an incredible trimmer. So I've been using this for creating my Christmas cards, and I have been very happy with it. I really think that this is one of those trimmers that's kind of going to take everything by storm since it has such a good price point and it cuts so smoothly. Again, I'll have more to review on this in the future. Another is the Cutterpillar Crop. There is a bigger version of this, but I find the smaller version much better. This is a huge trimmer. Now, this is a rotary trimmer. It has an arm that swings out. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this. I've had mine for a few months now, and I really do like it. It has, as I said, a rotary trimmer, and actually you can put batteries in it so that this edge lights up so that you can see where you're cutting. I haven't put batteries in mine, but I'll show that in that next video. But it has this rotary trimmer, and you see it kind of swings. So when you cut, you want to make sure your hand is pressing up against the right side gently so that it cuts straight every time. Supposedly this is self-sharpening, so it should last a while. It does cut thin strips. Again, my only drawback with this is that it doesn't have the measurements to the right side of the cutting area. It's not really possible to have them there. And the measurements are kind of hard to see. However, you can rub white paint over the little engraved numbers and such on the trimmer. And I'll talk more about that in the future. But this is a trimmer that a lot of people are loving, and I do like it. I probably reach for my Fiskars and my Holtz trimmers a bit more often, but that one is very popular. It is a higher price point. It's the most expensive of the ones I'm showing you. Now, if you're looking for a big mama trimmer but don't want to spend a lot of money, you might want to try the Swingline Trimmer. I made 1,900 cards a few months ago, and I did all of the cutting on this, and I was very happy with it. It cuts very smoothly. I'm trying to show you the different angles of it. It does have a locking feature. You can see the measurements are pretty minimal, and again, you don't have measurements to the right of the cutting area, but it does do a nice job giving sharp cuts, straight cuts for sure, and you can do those thin little strips if you want to. Again, I would keep this out of the hands of children. That's why I've never used these trimmers in the past, but they really are wonderful if you can make sure that you keep them safe. I will say that I do prefer the Holtz trimmer over this one, but if you need something that's bigger, that'll cut bigger pieces of paper, you could try this one out. And again, stay tuned for that trimmer video that I hope to do this month. Okay, so now die cutting tools. If you didn't check out my die cutting essentials video from day 2 of this series, be sure to click here or in the YouTube description below to check it out, because I did mention some basic tools that are good for doing die cutting. Real briefly, I wanted to mention again that I really like the Sizzix Big Shot. The other video talked a little bit more about why, but this is definitely the best quality die cut machine that I found. Any of the Sizzix ones are good, and there's an electronic one coming out soon. Okay, now along with the die cutting machine, I did the videos on all the dies. One other product that I really think is great is the We Are Memory Keepers Next Level Embossing Folders. Now, there are a lot of embossing folders on the market, but these are unique in that it's not just raised and lowered areas, but it's everything in between. It's really smooth from raised and lower. So you get incredible dimension. Check this out. It's just beautiful, the texture that you get using these We Are Memory Keepers Next Level Embossing Folders. They don't have many out yet. They come 2 to a pack, but the price is really good. Here I used one of the folders with some gold and silver cardstock, and check out how beautiful that is. You can kind of see the smooth transition in that texture. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about heat embossing tools. Last year I did a whole separate video on heat embossing. I will link to that here. All of the embossing powders are still my favorites, so you can check out that video if you really want to learn more about heat embossing. I just wanted to update a few things in today's video. There are a few things in the craft room where I recommend making a good investment, and one of them is in a heat gun. This heat gun from Hero Arts is like a Superman of heat guns. It gets really hot really fast, which means you won't warp your paper and you get better results with heat embossing every time. Anybody who's ever tried this has loved it. It is such a great quality product. I can't say enough about it. Now, this is the Wagner heat gun. Hero Arts used to sell the Milwaukee, which you see on the top there. As you can see, it's the same heat gun. It's just the Milwaukee brand increased their prices, so they switched over to the Wagner. But either of them are fine to get, great quality, and you're going to get better results because of it. Another product I recommend is the anti-static powder tool. So I'm using it over here. You just brush it onto your paper where you plan to do embossing. I'm going to stamp in two areas, one over here where I didn't use the powder tool and over here where I did, and show you the difference. I did rub my fingers underneath this image before I did it just to show you how just the touch of your fingers can cause embossing powder to stick where you don't want it. But on this one, you'll see it ends up clear because I used that anti-static powder tool first. Quite a big difference. This is one of those tools you buy once and it's going to last you for ages, so you don't need to worry about replacing it. I've had mine for many years and it shows no signs of going empty. There are anti-static powder bags, but I really like this tool much better. The brush tip is nice. Now, while we're here talking about embossing powders, there are two embossing powders that I wanted to add to my favorites from last year. The two are the Wow Gold and Silver Glitter Embossing Powders. I just rubbed my ink pad onto the paper here just to show you what the embossing powder looks like. This is the gold and then here is the silver. I've been using these a lot in my videos. If you are interested in learning of other embossing powders that I like and how I store my embossing powders, be sure to check out the video here or in the description below. I think it might be helpful to you. Another thing that I like to use with embossing powder, and actually with glitter also, is coffee filters. If you don't keep your embossing powders in some sort of container, these are very handy because you can easily put the powder back into the jar and then reuse the coffee filters over and over again. So maybe you have some in your kitchen, they're great to work over. And then Swiffer dusting cloths. These are a disposable product. You can see they come in big sheets. I cut them up into small pieces because you don't need much for each project. These are great for cleaning up glitter and embossing powder. So say you make a mess with glitter here on my table. I've got some on my fingers too. Normally that would drive you crazy. But with that little Swiffer cloth, you just rub and it completely takes the glitter off your hands. And watch how quick it is to pick up the glitter off your work surface. So if you've avoided glitter or embossing powders because of the mess, this is the ticket. This is what makes it completely bearable. Say you even get embossing powder on some of your tools. I'm going to stick my bone folder into here so you can see if it's covered in glitter. Watch how quick you can clean off that glitter. So I definitely think it's worth it to keep a box of those Swiffer dusting cloths on hand. After all, we don't want to be doing any cleaning, so we might as well use them for our crafting. Okay, so now on to other tools that I recommend. First up is the EK Success Tweezers. I like these so much that I have a few of them in my craft room. I like that they are self-holding. So you just put something in it like a little die cut and it holds it for you. You don't have to squeeze. So you can put the adhesive on the back of it and perfectly place it onto your card. So if you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that these are used on almost every card I create. Another tool I reach for a lot is the T ruler. This is inexpensive. It's only a few bucks. You just put the T on the edge of a piece of cardstock and you can line things up nicely. I also use it sometimes to stamp my sentiments straight when I don't use my MISTI. I can put the T ruler down, line up my stamp right along next to the T ruler, and I can be sure that it's perfectly straight. Now, for creasing or creating your cardstock, what I like to use is a Teflon bold folder along with my trimmer. So there's a ledge in your trimmer, and you can just take the bone folder and run right along that ledge in this trimmer. Now, if you don't have this trimmer, or you prefer, you can get a scoreboard, like the Martha Stewart scoreboard. But I find it's just another tool that I don't need. I actually donated mine. I find that little ledge in the trimmer is perfect, but you definitely want to use a Teflon bone folder. This is one of those products that's expensive for some reason, but it doesn't leave marks when you go to crease your card. So if you're creating a lot of card bases, you might want to look into this tool. I was surprised just how much I really like it. In my die cutting essentials video, I talked a little bit about Micropore Tape. I can't sing the praises of this product enough. This is a medical tape. It tears easily. This is what I use to temporarily tape my projects down before I watercolor. It's what I use to hold dies in place when I do die cutting. You can use it for just about anything. I also like it because it doesn't tear my paper when I go to remove it, and I can actually reuse the pieces a few times. You can even use Micropore Tape for some masking. You want to test it out first, but here you can see I put a dark marker over it and it worked perfectly. Really, this Micropore Tape is a great tool to have for just about any crafting. This year I also have been really liking the Simon Says Stamp grid pad. This is what you see me do all my videos on, and I like that the grid helps me line things up straight and I can line up my acrylic block when I go to stamp. Now, to protect the corners, to keep those corners from curling up on me on the bottom two corners, I cut 2 corners off of a page protector. So you can see I'm creating these little triangles, and I slide those triangles onto the bottom left and bottom right corners of that stamp pad. This keeps those papers from curling up. So I slide it on the back, I just tape it in place, and I leave that there for the life of this stamp pad. And by the way, you don't have to change these papers that often, so these pads do last you quite a while. I change them often in the video to keep it clean, but I keep them and I reuse them on the side so that I really get a lot of life out of each of these sheets. Okay, so now I have those little corners, and anytime I need to change the paper, I can slide it out, but this keeps those corners from getting curled up. So that's something that's helpful to me, and then I tape those corners down onto my desk so that this doesn't move. Another very handy tool is the Paper Artsy sanding block. Have you ever gotten your finger in ink and touched your paper like I did here? You see that little bit of blue ink? This is what I do to remove it. I just scrape it gently with a craft knife. Then I come in with that sanding block and just rub over it, and it smooths the paper out and removes that ink. Sometimes you can kind of see if you tilt it in the light, but I'm telling you, it is not easy to see. So it's a great way to fix mistakes. Here's another example. Say you stamp a tiny little bit of ink. You can't do this with a giant image, of course. Remove some of the top of the paper with a craft knife, then come in with that sanding block and just sand it away. Now, this isn't a super gritty sand. It's a very soft sand, and check it out, you don't really see it. So this is a way to save the day when you mess up that card in the final step. Really like having that sanding block on hand. Another tool that came out this year that I'm crazy about is the We Are Memory Keepers Fuse tool. Now, this tool is definitely handy if you like making shaker cards. So what you do is you take 2 pieces of plastic. I just use my stamp storage pockets, and you run the fuse tool along it, and this creates a sealed edge. So it just fuses those paper or the 2 pieces of plastic together. Then you turn it and you can create the other sides, and you form a little shaker pocket. Now, I've done a few videos using the fuse tool, and I'll link to those here because I think you really need to see it in action. I'm just making a really quick little shaker pocket here just to demonstrate it, but there are a lot of techniques you can do with this tool. After I've gone ahead and fused the 3 sides, I can trim off the excess, and then on the open side, I can fill it with whatever sequins or beads that I want. Then we can seal that side off. In videos that I've done in the past, I've actually shown how you can create a circular fused little shaker pocket. So you aren't limited just to creating squares and rectangles. Again, if you really like making shaker cards, this tool may be worth the investment. By the way, there are some accessories available for the fuse tool, but I really think all you need is the tool itself. The tool that's probably gotten the most use in my craft room this year is the Heidi Swapp mini Minc machine because I'm addicted to foiling. So basically, this fuses foil onto anything that has been printed with a laser printer, and there are some other things which I'll talk about in a moment. I've done many videos on how you can use this machine, and I will link to all of them here. You can also use a laminator for these techniques. The reason I like the mini Minc is because it has different heat settings and it's better quality. If you're going to be doing a lot of foiling, you might want to consider this investment. There is a bigger version of the Minc machine, but it's a lot more expensive, and for card making, we really don't need that large size. So that's why I recommend saving the money and going with the mini. If you're only going to be doing a little foiling, you can give a laminator a try. So again, I printed this Kindness is Magic with a laser printer. You can take it to a copier store, and any copier or printer at a print shop will use laser too. Put the foil down pretty side up, run it through the Minc machine, and look at the beautiful foil transfer that you can get. Absolutely gorgeous, and I've made many, many, many cards using this machine. In fact, I made 1,900 cards this way, and I'll be making my Christmas cards this way also. I also recommend the Heidi Swapp toner pen. You can draw whatever you want, put the foil on it, and run it through your machine, and it'll fuse to the paper wherever you drew. You can also use this toner pen on your stamp to get a foiled stamp image, and I'll link to a video showing that. So really, this machine is great for anybody who really enjoys foiling like I do. Now for foils, there are a few different brands out there. The ones that I use the most are the Deco foils from Thermoweb. I think they're great quality. They're nice and thick, beautiful colors, made in the USA, in really good quality, and the price is very good. There's also the Heidi Swapp foils, which work just as well too, and there are additional colors in that also. But you need to use these specific foils in order for this technique to work. Now the last tool I wanted to recommend is the We Are Memory Keepers 1-2-3 punch board. Last year I recommended a few of the different punch boards because I think they're fantastic. Well, now they've come out with one that does several things. This does boxes and bows and envelopes and more. So if you don't have those other punch boards, this could be a good one to invest in because it does so many things. If you have the other ones, you probably don't need this. So I wanted to show you how to make an envelope real quick. There's a key built onto the punch board that you can follow. It tells you what size paper to cut and where to do your first punch. So there's also an app that allows you to figure this out very easily if you wanted to do that too. The instruction book is great that comes with this. So I'm going to the mark that it told me to start with, and I've cut my paper to the size it told me to use. And you start at that mark, and the first thing you do is you punch the button. You push that button right at the top. After you've punched that, you're going to put your scoring tool right into this little crease right there in the machine and pull it down right along the scoring line. Then you rotate it and line the crease with that little notch on that side. You punch and you crease again. Then you rotate, lining up that same line again, punch and score, and you just keep doing this until all sides are done. It's very easy, and again, that instruction manual is fantastic with lots of color photos. So now that you have all those done, you can also round the corners. So up here is a corner rounder. So you just put the corners in and you punch and you end up with a rounded corner on each of these pieces. If you don't have a corner rounder, you can use this on your cards also. Okay, so now that we have all the scoring and all the punching done, all we have to do is crease all of these lines, and soon we will have an envelope. Now this same punch board will create envelopes with dimension. So if you make sets of note cards, you can create a little box to put your cards and envelopes in. Now you can make envelopes of a huge variety of sizes using that same tool. I just did the standard envelope size. So you can see here how our card fits in it nicely. This is a great way to make your own envelopes, and you can see it doesn't take long to do at all. And remember that this punch board allows you to make the bows and boxes also, all in a variety of sizes. And here is that envelope box with some dimension to it, so you can do sets of note cards. I just wanted to show you, I threw this one together very quickly just to demonstrate it. So that's the 1-2-3 punch board from We Are Memory Keepers. So that's it. That's all the crafting tools that I recommend for this year. Again, a lot of this has to do with personal preference, but I really think all of these are high quality products that you probably would like. Again, I have discount codes and giveaways over on my blog, links to all the products there and in the YouTube description below. To get to my blog, click the top left here. In the middle are 3 other videos and such that I think would be helpful to you. The first shows the hub for all of my favorite crafty things, so you can see everything in the series. The middle is my stamp care video, which has some stamping tools. And the last one is my die cutting essentials video. These links are also below in the description. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll return again soon. Have a great day.